And Scott Jackson for making this event possible. As I drove over here this afternoon, I was reminded of two things, which are the motivators in part for me to be a supporter of Speaker Gingrich. One, I got a text message from my 15-year-old who was asking me why in the devil it was that he was $50,000 in debt. And he went on to explain in his text message to me that he had just learned that the national debt of the United States was $15 trillion. And with 300 million people, he did the math and cleverly came to the conclusion that before he had even finished high school, he was $50,000 in debt. He told me I have an explanation to give to him that, and I'm sure the speaker will address that issue later. Secondly, I noticed as I turned off the expressway to come here that the local gas station is now charging $4.25 a gallon for gasoline. I keep telling my son these stories of way back in the good old days, 4 years ago, when gas was $1.80 a gallon. And I'm sure the speaker, who has, as you know, talked about drill here and drill now as a solution, not only for our high gasoline prices, but as a trigger for new job growth in the United States. So I'll have more things to say about that. Later this evening, the speaker will be out in Palatine at a Lincoln Day dinner where there'll be 400 people or so, and I hope to see some of you out there at that event. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Scott Jackson of the MVTrac company, who will introduce the next person on our agenda. So if you be so kind as to welcome our host, Mr. Jackson, he will then introduce you to one of our select guests. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Jackson. My company is MVTrac, and we're a high-focused technology company that focuses on auto finance, the recovery industry, the repossession industry, but also law enforcement and homeland security. So as you'll see here on this vehicle, there are some license plate recognition cameras, and it's a very passive system. It's not intrusive, it doesn't invade your privacy, but it collects data so that when a child is abducted, there's a murder to solve, things of that nature, scofflaw, things of that. The camera system has that data, and it's very passive, so only vehicles of interest can reach in and match it. Through time, obviously the economy is what it is. It's a poor economy, and we need Newt to turn things around and get the economy going again. So our vendors, who are typically your recovery, repossession agencies, your towing agencies, as well as law enforcement, police agencies, intelligence agencies, they don't have the funds necessary for us to grow, but they're not growing. So the economy is, of course, stagnant, and it really requires somebody exactly like Newt, who believes in the capital gains, 100% capital gains forgiveness on expenses for tow trucks or spotter vehicles or infrastructure, things of that nature. So I could talk forever on this, but really the bullet you should walk away with is we need Mr. Gingrich to be our president so that he can revive the economy through practices that will nurture strong small business and medium-sized businesses to grow, because we all hire the employees. We need to make sure that we're not going down the socialist path, and we grow our economy. So it's his show. I hate to keep talking, so at this point I'm going to introduce Mrs. Gingrich. Mrs. Gingrich is going to come up for a second.
Thank you for that kind introduction and warm welcome. It's great to be here in Rosemont this afternoon. We are so proud of our many volunteers here and throughout the state of Illinois. Thank you for your support. Newt and I are engaged in this race because we believe America is at a crossroads and care deeply about the future of our country. There are only a few months left before the most important election in our lifetime. Our only opponent is Barack Obama, and we are committed to removing him from the White House. Newt is the only candidate with the experience and knowledge necessary to rebuild the America we love. He has a successful national record of creating jobs, balancing the budget, and reforming our government. Today, we need a leader who can clearly articulate why President Obama and his policies are wrong for America. We need a leader who understands that we must contain and defeat our enemies. And we need a leader with bold solutions to create a better future for all Americans. I believe that leader is my husband. Please welcome former Speaker of the House and the next President of the United States, Newt Gingrich.
Thank you all very, very much for being here, and I am very grateful that you came out this afternoon. We're delighted to be back in Illinois, and we're looking forward to several more events today and again tomorrow. I thought I would also take this opportunity to thank Scott Jackson, who has helped us put this together, and also to thank Keith Henson, who has been our state chair and has helped us get on the ballot, which was a pretty significant achievement. If you notice that, for example, Senator Santorum didn't fully get all of his delegate slots done. So, Keith, my hat's off to you for what you're doing. And Charles Butler, who's here, is one of our delegates. So, I'm going to start with Scott Jackson and MVTrac, because it is really the perfect explanation of why I am staying in this race. It's something I wanted to say for our friends in the media to be able to take back to Washington and New York and elsewhere. MVTrac is the use of new technology to enable us to find vehicles of interest, whether it's a stolen car, it may be a car engaged in a felony, or a variety of other things. It's a very sophisticated expert system that tracks vehicles, and that basically just looks at license tags, and has an ability in virtually real time to determine whether or not that's the license tag the police are looking for, or the license tag an insurance company has reported has been stolen. Now, it gives you an ability to track criminals at a rate that was inconceivable 20 years ago. And yet, it's part of the future. I'm going to give just a couple examples because they're so obvious. And then I'm going to apply it to government, and then I want to tell you why. I think it's not just right, left, it's not just this whole thing about the right, the real conservative. There's a much deeper question in this race, which candidly I've not been very good at articulating. And that is that for the United States to be successful, and you see this in Springfield as much as you see it in Washington, you have to have a new generation of solutions that represent a 21st century conservatism that understands that science and technology makes an enormous difference, and that modern management makes an enormous difference, and that what we're dealing with are obsolete bureaucracies and obsolete government structures that are literally crippling the country's future. Now, that's a very different test. And what I've been fascinated with is how hard it is to drive these messages. Now, in the last few days, and I'll talk about it in a minute, we found a message that was sufficiently vivid and sufficiently clear that it began to break through, and the news media actually began to cover it. And that, of course, is gasoline, which I'll come back to. But it's been fascinating to me because when you talk about these ideas, I think they're very powerful. I think they're the heart of our future, and I'm going to give you several. But let me start with a simple illustration. How many of you have ever tracked a package at UPS or FedEx to see where it was? Okay, so 2/3 of it. So this is not a theory. This is literally something that happens every day. We have technology today where 2 private companies allow you to track in real time, and I'm told the post office has a similar